Welcome back to Broken Bobby's transformation page. In the late 80s, I became involved with drugs and would eventually become part of that lifestyle of trafficking, addiction, and violence. Over the next 20 years, I would be in and out of jail and prison. If you're thinking about trying something or you're dealing with addiction, your life don't need to go down the same path mine did. I hurt a lot of people, both physically and emotionally. These are my stories of how I transformed my life, and you can too. Let's get. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see by the title and the thumbnail, was I supposed to run with the Southsiders? So before we get into it, let me explain something. The reason I tell these stories and I ask these questions and I make these videos is ultimately that I'm in sobriety, right? And I want to assist others with finding sobriety as well. And I feel the best way I can do that is by telling these stories and telling you how screwed up my life really became over using drugs. So back to the topic at hand, though. Would my time in LA have been easier if I ran with the Southsiders? Would I have been made frontline because I would have been a white Southsider? Would I have been accepted by others? These are some things that we're going to get into. And I have a question that I'm going to ask at the end. So please stay tuned for that because I'm trying to get some feedback on some stuff and trying to find ways to make the channel better to suit the viewer. So stick with me on this one, all right? If you're new to the channel, subscribe, smash that like button, drop a comment, share the video. It really helps us to grow. Also, hit that notification bell and hit the all. That way, whenever I drop a new video or I go live, you will be informed and you can jump on it when you're ready. So, take you back to, it's like 1999. I get busted in Pico Rivera, California on a possession for sales case. Ultimately, I end up in the LA County Jail, first time, and they send me to 9500. So as you come into 9500, there's like a little caged off area. I don't want to quite say it's like a Sally port, if you know what that is, if you've done time, but you're coming into 9500, but you're not quite in yet. They still got to let you in. And there was a couple Southsiders right there, and they said, hey, fool, you a homie? And I had to make a split second decision, basically, whether I wanted to run with them or run with the Woods. And ultimately, I told them, no, I'm a Wood. So they told me where my homeboys were at, and, you know, I went and became acquainted. But had I went the other way with that and said, yeah, I am a homie, I would have been what's called a resident. Now, you know, I'm speaking to the people that haven't done time in Cali. If you've done time in Cali, you probably know all of this stuff already. But I would have been a resident. What a resident is they are a non-affiliated, member of a certain organization or group, right? So we're speaking on the Southsiders, right? So I would have been a resident because I'm not a gang member. Even though I kicked it with gang members on the street, I wasn't, you know, a part of the gang. So I would have been a resident. That's just somebody that lives in Southern California, basically, for purposes of this video. And the thing is, now, I've seen instances, there's a situation, it's called car jumping, right? Where you run with one car and then you change your mind and now you're not that anymore. Now you want to be the other car. And there can be some very violent repercussions for this because basically you're seen as a traitor to the group that you were with. And due to the fact that in the early 90s, I was busted in San Bernardino County and I ran with the Woods. Had somebody come along that seen me and knew who I was, they could have said, hey, he's a car jumper. And basically I would have got a more than likely would have got a pretty violent beating for that. I've seen this play out when I was when I was in the CCF. There was an Asian guy, and I don't know if he was. See, the Asians, there's Crips, and then there's others that are Asian, and uh, there was some issue with he had been either he was a Crip, excuse me, he ran with the Crips, or he ran with the others somewhere else. And when he got here, he decided he didn't want to run with the group that he had run with previous. So somebody recognized that, and the powers that be got together. They had a conversation, and basically they jumped this guy out. So I don't know if I don't know all the intricate details on that. So I can't really speak too much on that. But basically, it was negotiated that two guys were going to get on him in the restroom area, and they were going to put it on him for 30 seconds basically, and then the group that he had been involved with would wash their hands of him, and he would now be a part of the other group. Okay, so the thing about that is, the group that you were with before now isn't going to have your back on situations. You're now part of that other group. And I also seen this happen with a Hispanic gentleman in Delano when I was in reception. And what I heard, the rumor that was going around, and there's always a million rumors after you see some violence, but the rumor that was going around was he had come from LA County, and in LA County he was claiming to be a paisa. Now, the paisa card, generally speaking, there's always exceptions to the rules, right, guys? But generally speaking, paisas are Mexican Americans that come from Mexico. Now there's exceptions to the rule with that. El Güero Paisa, he's got a channel. You should go check him out if you haven't already. He's a white guy that ran with the Paisas. But, he was raised around Paisas on the streets, so that's who he felt comfortable with. And yeah, go check out his channel, El Güero Paisa, on YouTube if you haven't already. He's a real good guy, and he's got some great stories as well of his time in prison. But that's the thing. There's always exceptions to the rule, and I could have been that exception to the rule, to where I decided to run with the homies. I would have been a Southsider resident, but how would this affected my time? And had I been recognized by the Woods, would this have kicked off a riot? Because chances are, from what I've seen of the way the Southsiders program, they wouldn't have let another race put hands on one of their people. So, you know what I mean? Things like this can happen over these types of situations. Now, let's go back to the original questions. Would my time in LA have been easier if I had chose to run with the homies and I was a Southsider resident? I think so, because I would have had a lot more people backing my play. And, that's not to say that when riots kicked off, I wouldn't have had to jump and stuff like that with them. But, when there's safety in numbers, typically, I'll say, now, would I have been frontline? Probably, because, 90% of the South, more than 90%, 99.6% of the Southside car are gang members from Southern California. So, I would have probably been looked at a little bit differently, but a lot of that has to do with how you carry yourself as well. If you act like a man, typically you're going to be treated like a man. Some people probably wouldn't like it, but, that just, in the wood car, there were some people that didn't like me. You know what I mean? So it just depends on the circumstances and the people. But now, would I have been accepted? I think with that, my actions would have ultimately got me accepted had I ran that way. just based on being willing to put in work, being a stand-up guy. You know, like my thing was always, like when I got to the cells, like keeping a clean house. I'm speaking of the cell, not necessarily, some people say cleaning house, it means another thing. What I mean is in the cell, like the cell was always cleaned up and good. I carried myself in the most professional manner I knew how to. And, these are a lot of things that I think go hand in hand with the Southside program. Now, I'm no expert in their politics by any means. So, and shout out to the Southsiders. Like those guys are with the business. But, the thing is on the streets, kind of like El Güero Paisa that I mentioned. He grew up around Paisas, so he ran with Paisas. Well, I grew up mostly around Southsiders, the homies in San Bernardino. So, it kind of makes sense that I would have ran with the South. But I'm going to kick the question back to you guys. What do you guys think? Now, I'm not saying by any means that I regret the choices that I made, because I met some really good homeboys along the way. And, prison sucks, but, we made the best of it. When I was in prison, a lot of times my workout partners would be Southerners because, they just really pushed hard and, they were from the IE. So I, I messed with those guys pretty tough, unless something were kicking off, in which case then, we just try to stay away from each other pretty much, if I'm being honest. But yeah, that's my video on the day. So I ask you guys, should I have ran with the Southsiders, being that that's who I was familiar with mostly on the streets? Did I make the right choice by running with the Woodpile? Like I said, I don't regret the choice that I made. And, I'm just wondering what you guys think. So now on to the question that I have for you guys. As most of you know, I do lives on the weekend. And I was thinking of, because, we were talking about sobriety earlier tonight, and I felt like it was really good. The number of trolls was limited in the chat, so I feel like it went better. So what I'm thinking is maybe for the people that join that are into sobriety, maybe I'll make a certain tier for people that are into sobriety, and maybe once a week we can do a members only live for people that are more focused on the sobriety part of it rather than the war stories. So drop a comment and tell me what you think. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think I'm tripping? Let me know. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe, smash that like button, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Share the video, it's really helping us to grow. And hit that notification bell so that whenever I drop a new video, you will be informed and you can jump on it when you're ready. And also tap that join. And, if you think that we should do those members only lives, let me know, because I'm more than willing to do that. I think that would be great. So family, fitness, and freedom are the things that help me to get my life together, and I feel that they can help you as well. You got to play that tape all the way through. Think about what could happen if you do this or that. Things happen in life, right? Like when I use drugs, like I end up in prison. It just is what it is. So I don't do drugs anymore because I don't want to go to prison. I don't like going to the county. I don't like any of that stuff. Life can always be better, but I got a pretty good life, I would say. Got family that loves me and a good support system. So, yeah, don't look at the mountain. Just start climbing.